This is a big season for Geo, so we start with Ultra Wild, which is a giant 10-inch by 13-inch book, 88 pages, and it is cram-packed with all kinds of dreamy but utterly achievable methods of rewilding the world. And the creator of this book is a New Zealand native, Steve Bushin. He's an industrial designer, a maverick inventor. He's won awards for his environmental-based designs. And the whole point of this book is to tackle the idea of climate change through mind-bending and scientifically plausible inventions to rewild the cities and save the planet. It goes from the idea, I'll just list off some of his ideas here because I love them. Seed cannons that would then populate green areas with new local plants. He has a whole theory on how chickens can be used in an environmental way in buildings, at the top of buildings and in the middle parts of buildings to help grow crops and be raised for meat, of course. He himself has been the recipient of the British Council's Big Green Idea Award in 2012 for his work designing super efficient systems for growing food in cities. So it's in the clouds in terms of his thinking, but it is also very achievable. If you look at the spread there, you can see it's cram-packed with stuff. I mean, it's interesting. All of it is interesting. His sense of humor is evident throughout. There is nothing like this out there. It reminds me a little bit of the I Spy books when I was a kid, the DK and kind of Scholastic Utopia books. I expect it to make a big splash. It'll definitely be our most important title for this year. And we are finally wrapping up our 10-book series, Robot Makers, which is based on, it's Korean manhwa and is translated by Gloria Ohe. This one is called, number 9 is called United as One. Number 10 is called The Final Showdown. I think that implies a very satisfying character arc through the series. They're finally learning to work together instead of two teams competing with each other. They're like, hey, maybe this would work better if we work together. And it is really cool. It continues to use those really smartly placed intermatter sections of nonfiction that kind of explain what just happened in the previous section, having to do with makerspace and robotics and things like that. I'm excited to see how this will do as a series too, because it's a 10-book. Each of these are like 150 pages, give or take. And side by side 10 of them. That's a really good package for family or schools that are looking to kind of explore makerspace in a fictionalized version of it with really interesting non-fictional elements. So this is Absolutely Everything. This is upper middle grade. This one's really close to my heart. I'm just going to read the overview because I love the copy that the acquiring editor Greg wrote. Lately, 6th grade seems complicated on purpose for Marcella. She keeps forgetting her homework or getting distracted while she's doing it. Plus, her bestie has new friends, and her parents even want to move apartments. She's trying to keep track of the changes, but absolutely everything is stressing her out. It explores the experience of inattentive ADHD with a really empathetic, humanizing, destigmatizing eye. And as somebody who, I wouldn't say struggles anymore, as someone who has ADHD and has learned to kind of use it for himself, this one was really touching to read. It does what I think all great middle grade does, which is regulates this kind of emotional rhythm as you go through the story between, the tension and the drama and the interpersonal conflict to the moments of levity, the moments of emotional highs, as Marcella figures out how to navigate life being neurodivergent. It's great. I expect this to get a lot of positive press. I think it'll be popular with both kids and adults because it really does capture what it's like to be that age very effectively. All right, so similar to Robot Makers, this is a slight variation on that approach of fiction and nonfiction with scientific kind of ideas. This one's called The Case of the Underwater Aliens. It's Mystery Science Detectives number 3. It is also translated from the South Korean manhwa. And it's the 3rd book in the series. Each one of these books is really cool because they take something that could be seen as supernatural or something that somebody might assume is like, magical or whatever, and uses the scientific method to process all of the information they have, look at it like detectives. It is very much a detective story, to solve this supernatural element and explain it in terms of science. I think it's great. Use the scientific method to great effect. In this case, the underwater aliens are in fact bioluminescent sea creatures. And the way that a lot of times it is kind of predictable, the outcome, but it doesn't matter because it's done so well procedurally that as you go through the book, it's kind of like you're on for the ride. You don't really care if you know the ending before it comes. It's funny. It's a little bit spooky. And it's got a really kind of compelling art style that I think is going to be a a lot of people are going to appreciate it. It too has inner matter, where historical information, especially about the fascinating underwater sea creatures, is really cool. It is kind of the perfect blend of engaging, like, detective stories or mysteries with a cross section of science. All right, this is the books 3 and 4 in the Who's Pooh Is This series. So it features 3 characters that are based on the creators, Dr. Egg, Dr. Yang, and Dr. Woon. And of course, it uses the science of Pooh to explore interesting animals and solve mysteries. This is a little bit younger, for younger kids than Mystery Science Detectives, but it's kind of similar in its approach. It's got the inner matter spreads that show, characteristics of the poop that we talked about. It's wild to me every time we're talking about poop in front of adults, but here we are. It's funny. It doesn't go too far, but it does play up that scatological humor. And I have high hopes for this one because I think its levity and the kind of intriguing subject matter, and the covers are a lot of fun too. It's just a big piece of poop with a bunch of animals and people around it. It's great. It seems to me like something that a lot of the kids that I was friends with when I was a kid would want to read. And this is book 2 in the Magda Intergalactic Chef series. It's called The Chef's Journey, A Chef's Journey. Again, the tagline, when Harry Potter met Greta Thunberg, is a good overview. I like also, can a little chef with a big heart heal galactic division in the face of fascism with the communal spirit of cooking? I think that's a good job of summing it up. It's about a young woman who is from a small moon who is competing against other kids across the galaxy. In this particular one, she has to compete against her friend in the competition, Hector. And I won't spoil how it plays out, but it's all really fluently written. Again, the emotional rhythm, I think, is key with middle grade. And in this, it's highs, lows, surprises, twists, reveals. It really keeps you guessing. It's very sophisticated while also being accessible. And there's some kind of really a primer on discussing colonialism and imperialist thinking. And it's set against like the beautiful spirit of competition. The beautiful spirit of cooperation, even during intense competition. I think these are things that kids will like and relate to. It's an action-packed world, action-packed galaxy, a lot of vegetarian dishes. I think it's the perfect recipe for sci-fi, climate fiction, and food. This is book 2 in the Giant series, so just as a reminder, the Giant series is a 6-book series, each one featuring a kid and their respective giant, which is like an avatar of nature. The second one is Siegfried and Adriel, and I like to describe it as kind of Captain Planet meets Mecha or Kaiju in superhero comics. In this one particular, Siegfried is wheelchair bound. He's sick and tired of being cooped up at home while his parents are always out of town. To make matters worse, he has a caretaker that is kind of overbearing and overprotective. Siegfried wants to go swim, go on adventures, and get in trouble like other kids, but runs into other people's limitations on him because of his disability. So when a giant finally reaches out to him, Siegfried knows it's his chance to show the world what he's capable of. I think this is a really cool series. I mean, it tackles a lot, all in 48 pages per. There are overlapping elements in each story that attentive readers will be able to say, oh, wow, this is like, I don't want to compare it to Game of Thrones, but it is kind of like that in that you'll see these little threads pop up and connect things. And in the 6th book, it kind of brings everything together in a really satisfying and pleasing way. We're doing one of these a season. This is the 2nd one. And themes of social and environmental crisis, great SEL value, high hopes for this series as well. And then of the originals, as last but not least, this is Nefu Wants Food by Subi Bosa. This is a fable-like graphic novel for early readers about generosity, selfishness, and what it means to be a protector. It's written and illustrated by Cape Town, South Africa's Subi Bosa, which I believe is his debut, self-made debut for comics. And it's set in a fantasy land inspired by the architecture of Burkina Faso, West Africa, and heavily influenced by African folklore. It reads like it could be a folktale. He's done a really good job of walking that line between making something feel contemporary but also classic. The art style is wildly vivid and fun. The panel choices are smart for the age range. The vocab choices are smart for the age range, and it's all very innovative too, within the boundaries of what would be acceptable. Nefu is Mongol village's resident monster and protector. So the villagers provide food for Nefu, and Nefu provides the villages. Well, Nefu decides he's super hungry, and he eats all their food and then leaves. And it begins this kind of hero's journey of him learning what it means to be a protector, and of course, becoming small before being big again. There's plenty of zany and goofball humor, high SEL value, a lot of feelings, talking about feelings and the way that people respond to things, vibrant colors, unique illustration style. I say in this a lot this season, but I feel like there's nothing in the market quite like this either. And this is Trumpets of Death. This is YA. I think I would say in the legacy of a lot of great books, this one starts with The Dark and Stormy Night, but at that point it kind of diverges. It has an element of magical realism. It has an element of surrealism, and it is very much a coming-of-age story for young Antoine. So one night, Dark and Stormy Night, he's dropped off at his grandparents' remote house in the middle of the woods, and he's stuck between like an overbearing kind of grandmother and a very kind of toxic, traditional male grandparent. And it's in the middle of the woods, and time crawls as he's waiting to hear back from his dad because his dad and his mom are having arguments. So he kind of tries to keep himself busy, and it's all very insufferable until his grandfather suggests they go out to forage for mushrooms. What starts out as a reasonable connection between a slightly toxic grandfather and a young boy. They find a very specific type of mushroom, and then it becomes much more abstract, much more surreal, and really propulsive action. It's just like the last half of it, I'd say about 75% of it is wordless, and it's like a prolonged action scene, like a romp through the woods. I don't want to give away details, but it's really cool. It kind of touches on intergenerational conflict. It touches on humanity's broken bond with nature, as well as the dangers of aggressive gender roles. Again, there's nothing quite like this on the YA market. It's really liminal walking line between magical realism and coming-of-age fiction. And in the end, the kid wins, overcoming nature, the familiar trappings of toxic masculinity, and the effect that nurture can have on limiting a person and who they could be.